breaking the career stereotypes and moving into a DevRel role, right? So those of you who have been following the tech space quite closely, we know there are few themes which are coming up in the market, right, and making a breakthrough. So one of the career types that I see very popular is machine learning, AI, ML, analytics side of it. And a lot of people are switching to that career. And that is quite popular. You know already what is it all about, what kind of background you need, what kind of future you have. Definitely a good future holds over there. The second one, where I'm a part of or I'm coming from, is basically into cloud and a DevOps space. But currently, I'm associated with this company called DigitalOcean, and I'm working into a DevRel role, which is basically a short of developer relationships, which we call. And this talk is all about what is DevRel role, if someone has heard about it, or if you're excited what to know. How do you move from a typical software engineering background into a DevRel role? What kind of qualities you are expected to have or exhibit, right? And most importantly, what is expectation from a DevRel role? What does a DevRel do? And that's a common query that I get from a lot of people. So it sounds a pretty fancy role where you like most of the times I keep on traveling around the world, speaking at different conferences, meetups, meet a lot of people, but that's only one part of it. Is DevRel all about that, or it's much more to it? So this is what I'm trying to cover in my next 15 minutes or maybe less. And I would be open to questions or any queries that you would like to have. I'd like to make it more interactive session, not to bore you too much from my slides, but yeah, let's start. So just at a high level, the agenda that we are going to cover in the next 15 minutes is heard about DevRel. Are you kind of aware, or is something new that you are hearing for the first time? I assume not. But if yes, yeah, I think at the end of the session, you should have good takeaways from this session. Next would be what DevRel is not, right? So before I tell you what DevRel is all about, just need to do a clearing of all the assumptions that you might have in your mind that this is what I assume DevRel is. So what DevRel is not, then what actually is DevRel, and how do you move into a DevRel path? That's a short, simple thing that I will try to cover. So, I mean, I'm coming from a Indian background. So when we graduate out of college, and this is not very typical to a software engineer, but yeah, any graduate, right? Once you graduate as a fresher, you have a lot of career confusions. Starting from like when we say about like your school days, what should I take as my subjects so that I qualify for a particular stream? And once you complete that professional education, right? What should be my next area? So, and this is some confusion that I'm not saying that is only applicable to freshers. This happens throughout different phases of your career. So a fresher has a lot of confusion whether I should go into testing or I should be a developer or I should get into like Gaurav was talking about project management, different kind of roles you have. Should I go for Java, Python? Should I learn AI/ML? That sounds cool. That gives a lot of money. 5 years down the lane, when you are working on something, again, you have similar kind of confusions. I've been working for 5 years. Am I happy? If you are one of the lucky chaps. But yeah, most of the time you are not happy because of different reasons. This is what I'm not supposed to do. This is something which I don't want to do. 10 years down the lane, you have been into the industry like more than a decade. 10 to 15 years of experience, you are like a manager or architect or some other technical level, but still that confusion is there. So yeah, career confusions haunting you, want to know about some new path, or you are facing something similar situation like this guy. I have no idea what's going on in my life. Apart from COVID and the lockdown, a lot of other things are happening, but I'm not sure what path my career is. Where should I move to, right? Yeah. I guess you have much more clarity. You don't feel like this, but then in case you have something similar that you resonate, a feeling like this, I'll try to help you out on a new career path. So let's talk about developer relations. In short, we call them as DevRel, right? So what does develop not equals to? So what it is not all about. So some people assume that DevRel is all about coding and going to conferences and speaking, right? So it's not only about coding or programming. Second, and the most fancy assumption that people make for DevRel or developer advocates or a lot of other fancy titles are that these are the guys who go to a lot of conferences, they get a lot of chance to explore the world across the globe. get invited, they speak, and they're like more or less more of a technical celebrity kind of a thing, which is kind of true, but that's not the only job that they do. I mean, at least in my case and what I have seen from this industry, that's one of the duties that you're supposed to do. Some of the people, they also assume that this is a stereotype sales job or a marketing job, which is again not the case. You might be a part of the marketing team indirectly, because when I see DevRel, I most of the time see this as a part of not a typical engineering group, but mostly under, like I'll say, marketing. It's a typical marketing thing that funnels down to DevRel. But that doesn't mean that you have to be a marketing graduate or have to come with that experience. And it's not even a very typical engineering or even product engineering kind of a thing. So if it's not all these things, then what is DevRel all about, right? It's not only about coding. It's not only about going to stage and giving talks. It's not a typical sales or marketing process. It's not even quite engineering or even a product development. And what is DevRel, right? So just got this definition at a higher level, which, I mean, I'll not say is a full definition, but then yeah, it says developer relation involves being a social media influencer on behalf of big corporations, right? And talking about facts and figures. So at a high level, this is true. You have to be an influencer. And nowadays, since social media is the most popular medium, you have to be kind of a social media influencer, need to have those kind of skill sets and work for some of the big corporates, right? This is now a fancy title. So a lot of big corporates doing a lot of hiring in DevRel. So yeah, let me start with my definition or assumption that I think about. So I typically see DevRel as a mix of a lot of responsibilities and duties, right? It's not only about coding or not only sales or not only focusing on engineering part. It's a mix of both. So when I say mix, I assume that DevRel is a very big umbrella under which we have different verticals. And you could be doing multiple jobs in a DevRel role, wearing multiple hats, right? Based on the organization that you work for and the kind of expectations they have from a DevRel role. So different organizations, they have different roles and responsibilities charted out for a DevRel, but at a high level, they all overlap in some way or the other. So as we see, right, developer relations is not just a fancy name for developer advocates. It's basically an umbrella term for a team whose primary responsibility is building a community, which could be both online and offline. So in this COVID kind of a situation, offline has become a bit less. It's mostly online nowadays, and that's the reason we are all here, right? So it's a bigger umbrella whose responsibility at a high level is all about community. How to build a community, how to serve the community, and how to give it back to the community. In this case, the community I'm expecting is more of a technical community that you are coming from. So if you are working with a software developer organization, it's more about that particular product that you have. If you are coming from a database background, it's that database community. If you're coming from a cloud background like me, it's more about cloud community. But then, yeah, it's all about community that we focus. So what is DevRel at a high level, right? So these are some of the key characteristics of a DevRel role that I say. So I'll walk you through all of them, but I was having a discussion with one of my colleagues, now an ex-colleague, but yeah. And he beautifully defined when I asked him, what do you think about DevRel? So he said for him, and this is not like a very specific definition, but yeah, this is coming from a person who has been doing DevRel for a long time. At least I know more than 5 years. He said for him, DevRel is all about 3 C's. 3 C's, which he sees as a DevRel thing and overlapping each other, are code. So definitely there is a code involvement. You need to be a technical guy who understands code. Not even if you are supposed to write the code, but then yeah, you know how to understand the language, right? You have the basics of those. So first C is code. Second C, as I talked about in the last slide, was community, right? And this is one of the bigger C's. It's all about community. How to serve the community, how to excel in the community, and help others to scale. The third C that we see is basically all about content. So content on the internet comes in different forms, right? So one of the forms could be personal blogs, posts, your experiences, going back to the community in like Stack Overflow and helping people in solving their queries or questions. So different ways to add content for your organization that you're working for. So, and I agreed that because what I have been doing in the DevRel since last 1 year, I see these three C's as a part of my daily life. So somewhere or the other, it's mostly around code, community, and content of it. Now, when I talk about typical DevRel composition, so these are some of the basic pillars that I see. Building relationships and fostering trust, right? So building relationships caters to your networking part, wherein you are into the community and you build relationships with other developers, other co-workers, the community people, and help community grow big, right? And building a trust. Trust could be around yourself and around the brand that you are promoting, in this case, your organization. Collecting and relaying feedback to the other teams. So this is again a part of a DevRel thing. As I said, it's a bigger umbrella. So this is again one of the things. You go to a lot of conferences, you go to a lot of meetups, you speak to a lot of people, right? And you represent a brand or a company. So when people have feedbacks, could be both positive and negative, right? Could be either. You take those feedbacks and come back to your company and talk to your product team and give them that these are the feedbacks that people need. They are happy with these features, but they are not happy with other features, whatever they have, right? They need new features or enhancements or those kind of things. So they get a live and direct feedback from the customers. They might not be able to get on the ground and get those kind of feedbacks, but since you are on the ground, you pass back those feedback to the community from the community back to your company and help them improve that product, making it better. Helping people work through challenges, right? So this is again on the community side of it. Helping people work through challenges. So different people who might not be like as good on a particular technology or a skill set, helping them grow and scale. That is on the community. Inspiring people to build. So this is the first C that we're talking about, right? Code. So the developer community, you get and engage with them, help them and make them better coders. And the last one, but the most important part is mentorship. You know a technology, you keep it to yourself, doesn't help. How does the community grow? Community only grows when you teach and share your experiences. So I learned the technology and I failed at it. I had different challenges. I go out to the community, I put up a Medium post or a blog post and share that these are the challenges that I faced as a fresher. Maybe someone else who is trying on a similar technology, you can try these steps. That will save you from what I have faced during the run, right? So that is again kind of mentorship and sharing it back to the community. So if you talk about the bigger umbrella, you see these things coming back into the three verticals that we talked about. Mostly about community, something about code, and the content part of it. Different ways to do it and achieve it. And also there is no fixed, I'll say percentage of like it's 60% code, 30% community, or those things. It's all depending upon the kind of requirement from your organization. How do they define or how do they vision DevRel within their organization? And that defines your roles. So for developer relations, when we talk about DevRel, I have a title of developer advocate, but then we have other titles also similarly working on at par with us, right? So different companies call them in different ways. They can call you a community manager. You could be a developer evangelist, developer advocate. That's what I am. Sometimes they are even called as growth hackers, marketeers. That the thin line of difference between them, like growth hackers and marketers, they might be more focused on growth of a startup or marketing strategies, less on the community side. But then, yeah, somewhere or the other, they are all a part of the DevRel community, helping the community grow big and make a better place for it. So developer relation aims at building positive relationship with developers. And when we talk about developers, it's not only developers, but the entire community. It's the tech community, and it's a whole global tech community that we are talking about, right? So this is my vision of what I have seen as a DevRel. Right? There are different titles, there are different roles, but they all align to the same end goals: making community better, helping others grow, helping developers become better, I'll say programmers in terms of coding expertise, preaching or teaching new technologies that you are aware of, and sharing your experiences through different ways, that being a content part of it. So now when we talk about I'm a typical developer or I'm a QA or I'm coming from a background, how do I move into a DevRel space? So the kind of story that I've told you in last 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'll say, yeah, I'm kind of overshooting, but yeah, just try to keep it short. There are certain key things, parameters that you need to be a part of the DevRel thing, right? So I've just tried to outline what are the key factors that you need to move into DevRel space. So I mean, it's not my golden rules, but definitely in a DevRel community, these are the things that we know. Some of the golden rules, how to move into DevRel role. Learn how to write. And this is not writing code basically, but writing in terms of general writing, right? You remember the content. So I'm not saying you should be expert content writer, but then yeah, if you know how to write or share your ideas into a readable English, right, that people across the globe can understand that what you can convey, it would be good. Build bridges, have a network. So definitely, when you are part of the community and trying to help the community grow, without networking and without talking to people, understanding the problems and helping them grow, uh, that community part cannot be done. So building bridges, having a strong network is a plus. Don't be married to a specific technology, and this is very relevant not only to develop, but in today's space, it's for everything, right? I assume, like, I have seen a lot of friends who come from a different backgrounds. They have been into like Java development for more than a decade, and now they're kind of stuck. I want to learn Python and Golang, but how do I do and from where do I start? I mean, there is no specific day to start, right? You want to learn Golang or Python or whatever language, start. You'll make mistakes in the beginning. Put something on your resume, like you learn, you put some personal projects and clear an interview. Give confidence that I'm coming from a programming background, irrespective whether it was Java or Python. I should be able to do it and pull it off. That's the only thing that organization needs from the people. They don't need experts, right? When they need experts, they specifically call it on the JD, the job description, that we need people with 10 years of experience into this. So maybe that's not your, but yeah, we need people good with programming. Definitely, you are part of that big group. The next part is create your own branding. And this is good because once you start writing or you are like the initial definition that are called out, right? That calls, these are all social media influencers. So when you are onto social media, are you just like watching what is happening or are you also contributing to that and how you are contributing? As and when you start contributing more on a social media platform, the traction increases, people start recognizing you for the good work that you are doing. Indirectly, what you are doing is, end of the day, you're creating your own brand. I'm coming from a DevRel space. I have like more than a decade of experience into cloud and DevOps work, right? I have been working with technologies like Docker, Kubernetes, those kind of things. So when people follow me, they expect me something good coming out of it from these spaces. So definitely, I have created a niche branding for myself in this personal space. And the last point that we have already emphasized is mentorship. That is basically teach as you learn. So if you learn a technology and keep it to yourself, it's not going to help. You have to teach it to the community to give it back to the community. And that's how people will like recognize you, they'll thank you, or you will become a social media influencer. It's not like one day job, it becomes a slowly gradual process. You do it one day, you do it over weeks, months, and then a year, and then you see the difference, right? Like any other thing, this also takes time, but then over a period of time, you can always shape yourself into a particular version that you want. If you want to move into a DevRel role, you can be DevRel. It takes time. So those are the parameters that I wanted to share, that what DevRel is not all about, what I feel, or what I have seen DevRel as being in the industry right now. It's still a relatively new career field, not so popular across this region of the world. But then, yeah, people are understanding the benefits and they are going for these kind of roles. And these are certain parameters that you need to, I mean, it's not like mandatory, but good to have kind of things. Content, code, community. If you're popular into community, if you know how to write good content, people will definitely like you. And you are already a DevRel. Even if you don't get that fancy title, you are doing a DevRel job. That brings me towards the end of this. Yes. So, last and favorite slide for me is think for yourself, don't be a sheep. And what I basically mean by this is it's your career, right? You have to take a call. Just because others are doing it, you don't follow that herd mentality. If you have those kind of stereotypes that I want to break away from this career, I'm not happy or satisfied with it, you are the only one who has to make a decision and take and like work for it. your friend or your relatives or your manager. I mean, do not be dependent on anyone else. Think for yourself. Don't be a sheep. Don't follow that. And definitely, yes, a big applause for Git Commit Show, second edition. Definitely for all the organizers making this a successful show. And thanks to all of you for being a lovely audience. I'm open for all kind of questions, yeah. So I think that will help you in better understanding. I'll just stop sharing my screen and I'm open for questions.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation, Saurabh. We have few questions coming in. Let me
Yeah.
ask them. So Pranjal asked, what is the interview process for these DevRel roles?
Okay. So see, this is like for me, this was like for the first time I was doing kind of a DevRel role. So I just gave one interview at DigitalOcean as a DevRel. And the process that we followed was basically we already had a DevRel team in US. So I was interviewed by them. We had counterparts in India. I had an interview with them. And these interviews basically technical. From the community, you have to show what kind of work you have done in the past. Why do you want to come into a DevRel role, right? So that's where I said, have your own personal branding. So if you have some kind of a branding on GitHub or whatever social media, if you do a lot of postings on Git, like Stack Overflow, right? You are a popular figure over there. You can show those kind of things that I'm already doing a job and I'm quite eligible. So as I said, for me, thankfully, it has been only one interview. But in general, you need to be technically good, understanding technologies, not only one part of it, but then yeah, all aspects. Good with the community. If popular community figure, better. And then yeah, content is on the later side of it. Like nowadays, I see a lot of people writing on Medium, so definitely those things will come in handy.
We have another question. Let me just modify it a little bit. What is single most thing that you see is the most effective in building community?
That's kind of a tricky one. I'll not say single most thing as such that stands out, but what I have seen in the past is from my experiences, it's a collaborative effort from the team members, right? Whatever community that we are talking about at this point of time, all members should align with the same vision and mission. If they all wear the same hat that this is the mission that we want to achieve, I mean, you should have clear goals for that particular community. And if you do that, the community will definitely be a big success. I mean, I have examples for that. I personally, I cannot name the people and the thing, but then it's a popular figure. He was working with one of the companies where he was into a software engineering role, right? And he had his own community where he was working with technologies like Docker and Kubernetes. He was not working as official. This was unofficial thing that he was doing on his own. He drove that community big, make it pretty big, large, made a big impact, and now he's a very well-known figure. So he had clear views about his how to drive his community, right? And he did that.
Can you share what was the goal? Mission, you, as you said, is the most important thing.
So, I mean, see, for each community, the goal mission would be different. So the kind of community I was talking about, this guy wanted to make technologies like Docker and Kubernetes much more popular in India. Like if we see the technical stack, right? If we talk about global communities, we have people from across the globe. If we talk about India, I see major people coming from Bangalore, Pune, and that's more of decentralized, right? Like if I talk about NCR, I don't see that kind of interest. So I have personally been talking to a lot of people in NCR for different communities, trying to work and help them because we don't see that kind of interest coming from this part of the world than from Bangalore. If I tell people in Bangalore that I have a meetup on Sunday, people are most welcome, right? They are willing to come and like join the bill in person or online. Not same kind of enthusiasm from the other parts. So then you have to guide those people, get them into right mindset. It takes a lot of time, but then yeah, if that's on your agenda, that's your goal, you drive that.
Got it. Thank you. Can you share a brief about your career path? How did you get to this dev role, developer advocate role?
Sure. So as I said, right, I have nearly like more than a decade, around 12 years of experience. So I started basically as a Java developer, got into cloud and automation side of it, and I was working perfectly as a DevOps engineer, which is now a very popular career path right now. I used to go to a lot of meetups and conferences and always had that feeling that even I want to be on the other side, not as an audience, but maybe as a speaker. And I was not sure like what these people do and how do they get on the stage, right? How do they speak or like what is the way? I started exploring that, came to know about DevRel, found that these people are DevRel. There is something called as DevRel in organizations, and these people are supposed to do that kind of a job. Then I started researching more, finding what kind of opportunities we have in India. Thankfully, I got an opportunity with DigitalOcean. They were looking for a DevRel role in India, in Gurgaon. I applied for that, got interviewed, and been selected. So I'm coming from a typical programming kind of a background where I've been working hardcore, Docker, Kubernetes, containers, those kind of things, and now into a DevRel space.
What difference do you see in salary benefits from programming world to this DevRel world?
As I said, this is a relatively new thing that is picking up, right? And this is mostly being driven by the US markets. So they had these kind of roles. Now in India also, we are following the same fancy. So since it's a new thing, we don't have that kind of a pool of people available. Definitely, you have some salary benefits over there at this point of time. Like any other new technology or new career, right? This also has higher benefits than a typical role that you might be doing.
Got it. So, can you share your thoughts on the theme of the conference, Pursuit of Mastery? And with that, can you also share your one of your favorite book?
Sure. I mean, see, a pursuit of mastery is something which I have been like I totally believe into that whatever space that we have been doing, be it tech, non-tech, or whatever things, we need not get satisfied and get into comfort zone. We need to have that kind of a hunger to continuously strive for excellence, right? Keep on trying that, keep on learning on a daily basis. That helps you improve as a personal human being also, and whatever technical space we're working. So I'm definitely a firm believer of that. And that's where I started from, like, as I said, Java developer, moved into cloud, into DevOps, now into DevRel, trying to make myself a better version every day. Talking about the book, the latest book that I'm reading, I think that would be one of the things. So I'm reading this book called SRE, Site Reliability Engineering by Google. So they coined up this term, SRE. Just trying to understand that it's a good book if you are especially into that cloud space. So just definitely a recommended book.
I think awesome. So I think these are the all questions that we have. Thanks a lot, Saurabh, for joining in. If you have any last message to share with the audience, anything you want to say and close this session.
Um, so, I mean, not only for the audience, but for all of you, thanks and kudos for making this a big success. Round two and much better than what we had last year. A lot of improvements I see. So, and I'm looking to the next version over there, third one. And definitely, I mean, I'm there on social medias, right? So definitely, anyone looking for any kind of help on DevRel, feel free to reach out to me. Whatever ways I can help you out, I'll try to help. Thank you.
Great, awesome. You can find his LinkedIn profile and Twitter by following Invide Labs. So thanks a lot, Saurabh, for joining in. And this was a great talk, a great learning experience from you. We will be in touch and see you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.